In a recent video that went pretty viral, I got absolutely roasted for saying this. But I also had thousands of people in the comments and in DMs say to me, "This is amazing. This is brilliant. I agree with you so much." So I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I stand by it because I truly believe that this is the key to navigating conflict like a pro. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Nobody Listens to Kevin, my podcast where I tell you the truth about life and relationships that you will not hear anywhere else. And today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into one of my favorite subjects, conflict resolution. Now, if you want a step-by-step guide, literally nuts and bolts, practical step-by-step guide on what to do when you and your partner are having an argument, go to my Spotify or my YouTube. I already have an episode uploaded called 8 Rules of Conflict Resolution. This is literally the 8 do's and don'ts so that you can squash any conflict as soon as it arises. But today, I want to approach conflict resolution from a slightly different angle. I want to talk about how to prevent it, and I want to instill in my listeners a conceptual shift or an emotional shift that will prevent the conflict from escalating, prevent the conflict from becoming personal, and prevent the conflict from lasting hours or days or months or even years. And if I had to boil it down to one thing, right? How do we prevent conflicts from becoming personal, from lasting forever, from getting nasty, from escalating? There's obviously those 8 do's and don'ts, right? But there's an emotional shift that needs to take place. There's an internal transformation that needs to occur in both parties in order for conflicts to become containable. And what it all comes down to is the willingness to be wrong. The willingness to be wrong means that if somebody tells you that you're doing something that is hurting them, you're able to take responsibility for that, you're able to apologize, and you're able to understand that regardless of what your intentions are, regardless of what your background is, regardless of what this person has done to hurt you, there is a part of your behavior that only you can be accountable for. And if you're willing to be wrong, if you're willing to admit your faults, then that opens up the other person to be willing to do the same thing. This is the next level of compassion. This is the next level of love and understanding and empathy for your partner. Another way to say this is, what's the opposite of the willingness to be wrong? The opposite of that is, I don't need to be right. I don't care about being right. What I care about is making you heard and making you understood. And here's the thing that I got roasted for saying. I thought that this was a very normal and helpful thing to say, but a lot of people were very upset by it. I said that one of the mistakes that we make when it comes to effective communication, when it comes to conflict resolution, is we believe that if we can explain our position and why we feel the way we feel, and if we can tell the other person why their feelings are not valid in this case, that then they will concede and I'll essentially be able to win, and they'll say, fine, you're right, I'm wrong, and then the whole thing will get squashed. But that's a huge mistake because the truth is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if my truth supersedes your truth. It doesn't matter if I'm right and you're wrong. and if I can convince you of that. What matters is that you and I get on the same page and we both see how we have been complicit in creating a dynamic where a conflict has occurred. There are exceptions to this rule, okay? If somebody is beating his wife and then he's trying to tell her that there's nothing wrong here, it's all in her head, I'm just using a silly example, then yes, obviously there is such a thing as objective right and wrong. But that's not the majority of cases. The majority of cases goes like this. I'm really upset with you for doing this thing. Then the other person says, well, I do that thing because you do this thing. And then you just go in this circle. It's like a ping pong match of, I do this because you do that. If you didn't do this, then I wouldn't do that. Well, you're clearly wrong for this, and I'm clearly right for that. And we just get nowhere. And the reason that we get nowhere is that we're not willing to sit with ourselves and say, you know what? Maybe I need to take a different approach. We're so convinced that we are right and that the other person is wrong that we think we're going to hunker down on this idea until we essentially beat the other person into submission. What ends up happening? You get into a huge blowout argument. It doesn't go anywhere. It gets swept under the rug. You don't talk to each other for 3 days. Then you start to miss each other and then you say, all right, fine, let's kiss and make up. But the issue hasn't actually been resolved. And when things get swept under the rug, that fosters resentment, emotional negativity that festers and then comes out in an even more pronounced way the next time there's a conflict. Okay? So I understand that what I'm asking of you is not easy. It's not easy to put your defenses aside, especially when you're triggered. It's not easy to give up the need to be right. But it is the key to navigating conflict like a pro. I relinquish the need to be right. What I need is peace in my relationship. What I need is love and compassion and empathy to give and to receive. What do I get from being right? Do I get a medal? Do I get the other person telling me that now things can be the way that I want them to be, while silently they feel resentful and they feel small? I don't get anything from being right. All I get is a temporary feeling of satisfaction that my ego has won. Okay? But that ego is going to destroy your relationships. That is one of the 8 essential tenets of conflict resolution, is to put your ego and your defenses aside. The ultimate form of putting your ego aside is being willing to be wrong. Being willing to say, yes, this was wrong. Yes, I messed up. Yes, I'm willing to apologize and take responsibility because I see the way in which my behavior has been hurtful or has not been conducive to success. And I'm telling you guys, this is one where you really have to dig deep in your heart to find this humility and to find this love. Okay? And you're not going to do it unless the other person is doing it as well, because it takes 2 people to tango. But if you can do this, this is how you know that you have true love. True love is taking the other person as a part of yourself. It means that you and your partner become one flesh. There's no separation between my emotions and your emotions. I cannot hurt you without hurting myself. I cannot accuse you of being wrong or bad or stupid or dumb without accusing myself of those things. I cannot fight with you or be angry at you without fighting myself. When you see your relationship through that lens of oneness and unity, and a conflict arises, you will be willing to say, yes, I was wrong, and yes, I can do better, because not only does that fulfill the other person's need to be heard and validated and loved, but it also lifts you up as well, because now you guys are one. I hope this was helpful. It's going to take time to implement. It took me years to arrive at that level of presence and connectedness and to be able to dissolve my ego. But you can do it. We're all capable of it if we want it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you on the next episode.
Awesome.
10 minutes.